right, y'all. What's the deal? It's your man King Eric, the Media Assassin. We are now tuning in to episode 631, live and direct, off the cuff radio. And this show is sponsored by Screwball Radio, Da Vinci Clothing, Cocaine Buddy Boy Entertainment. And I got my host T-Max with the facts on the line. What's good?
Man, look, another fantastic Friday of the freshest frequency on the internet that keeps you all interested and engaged. It's Off the Cuff Radio. I am your co-host, T-Max. Shout out to our co-host, Sincere, a lot of Sandman, Lady Chinchilla, and of course, DJ Sincere, Dirty Basement Radio, up in New York City. We are ready to rock. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very special show. We've been blessed over 10 years to do what we've been doing. And we've had so many notable and known legends. Everybody knows NWA as being one of the groundbreaking, pioneering, and all-time influential groups on the West Coast, and for that matter, all of hip-hop history. We had the pleasure 3 years ago of having DJ Yella as our first entry from that NWA Treated as Deeply Rooted. And then a few months back, we had Lonzo Williams, of course, who was an integral and indelible part of it. And tonight, we have another indelible and incredible legend from that branch also, who was instrumental in helping to mold what will become one of the signature soundtracks of the West, being part of the world's most dangerous crew. This man right here, his history is incredible, his story extraordinary, his character beyond reproach and absolute concrete and solidness. And we are so honored, we are so privileged, we are so humbled to have him on the air tonight, for him to tell his story, because he's definitely part of it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the outstanding, legendary, OG Arabian Prince. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
In the building, fellas, always pleasure.
Man.
Right here, man. I tell you, man, this is a legendary show, man. The reason why I reached out to you, man, because you have a story to tell. You are part of history, and we want our audience to know that you have a story to tell. You are part of an elite group, and you are an unsung hero in hip-hop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just the old man still trying to get a nut.
Look, everybody knows about the core, what everybody considers to be the core members. Of course, Yellow Ren, Eazy, Dre, Q, the Fantastic Five, but a lot of people don't know outside of LA and outside of California, that in Compton specifically, that you all were really a collective in terms of everybody that was involved with it. Of course, who can forget the 1986 release, NWA and the Posse, which was really someone will say a compilation of all of you up there before Straight Outta Compton would drop 2 years later with the members that everybody knew. Obviously, Prince, there's a lot to get to in terms of your personal history, how you found your way into hip-hop, how you met everybody, what happened along the way, and then your story in between in terms of, what you did in terms of your own personal endeavors. So I guess we get right to it in terms of where it all started. Tell everybody about yourself and your upbringing, where you came from, and hey, shit, we got time. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Well, I was born a poor black child in Compton. As we all say. So, born and raised in Compton, man, only child, overprotected moms, brilliant family, man. My father was one of the most prolific black authors in the world, wrote over 200 fiction books. Also was the editor of Life Times, The Sentinel, Wave, Cashbox, Urban Network magazine, Co-Owned Players magazine, which was the adult magazine. So I grew up with words. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with words. And my mom was a classical pianist, so I grew up with words and music. And all my uncles and cousins was gangbangers and fighting cops every day. So that was my vision of the world growing up. And it all kind of put me in a situation to where everything that I saw is what I wanted to talk about and rap about and do. So, that's kind of where I came from, man. And, from my mom's being this overprotective mom, I had to figure out a way to maneuver in Compton because she wouldn't let me be out in the streets. My uncles and cousins who were in the streets told me if they caught me in the streets, they was going to kick my ass. So I was more scared of them. Hey, dude, I was more scared of them than I was scared of any of the other gangs because they was all scared of my uncles and cousins because they all ran in neighborhoods. And one day they caught me down at the liquor store where I wasn't supposed to be, and they put my face in the muddy, dirty water gutter, man, and just held me in it. It was like, dude, you see this? That's what they gonna do to you. And I'm thinking in my head, well, that's what y'all doing to me now. So, it kind of like steered me more into sports, into music, into, other things, man. And I really, appreciate that upbringing because I could be dead, I could be in jail, I could be doing a lot of other stuff, but they kind of pushed me into, more brilliant things, man. And when my mom's not letting me go out, I had to figure out an outlet, and that outlet was becoming a DJ. And becoming a DJ, for me, she wouldn't let me go to the parties, but I figured if I was a DJ, I was the first person at the party, the last person to leave. When nobody gonna laugh at me because my mom drove me to the club or to the party at school, and I was the cool kid. So yeah, man, that's kind of how I started.
Oh, wow. I mean, your dad was an author. You said, and if we heard about, you said Players and Players Magazine.
Oh yeah, Players Magazine, man. I was a little kid hanging around the office, so yeah.
I gotta send you a DM too. Look for the name T Max and VA in your DM. I actually have an old issue with Angel Kelly on the cover.
Yeah, I know that issue.
Yeah, man. So when you think about Compton, when you were coming up, because this is, pretty much it. The gangs don't really come in heavy as we know it today because it's still nascent back then. So It's still kind of starting out, in terms of 69, of course, when the Crips, Star Raymond, and Raymond Washington, of course, with Tukey, of course, 71, 70, 71, even 72, that's when you have the Bloods and the Pyrus come in. So this is still kind of early on where the gangs are still kind of formulating. Like what you said earlier about, your moms didn't want you being caught up in that element. Musically, what was it like in terms of how the music scene in the streets was moving in terms of just everybody, the neighborhoods, whether you're thinking about Compton Boulevard, whether you're thinking about Rosecrans, Fruittown, Central, I mean, what was it like going on in terms of each neighborhood and what they had going on?
Yeah, so, I often say, being a kid, I was born in 1965, so listening to that music of that time, the funk, there was no hip-hop in the 60s, early 70s, unless you want to bring James Brown into it, or a lot of DJs don't know about the Last Poets, you know what I mean? So I grew up listening to all of that as a kid. And my uncle, who I used to hang out with and idolize, he had the craziest vinyl record collection. And also back to my pops, he had a talk radio show on KH Radio in LA. So on Sundays, he would be in the control room doing interviews and talking about, Black Power, there's all these things. I was in the DJ room making mixtapes at 12, 13 years old. You know what I mean? So I had access to all of this music, man, and that's kind of what changed my life. getting into it. And, often say my early influence was Parliament Funkadelic, Prince, anything, funk, Kraftwerk. A lot of us on the West Coast was deep into Kraftwerk. So all those things is kind of what molded my sound and Dr. Dre's sound and DJ Yella's sound. And even if you listen to the early NWA, like the first EP. Oh, let me give y'all some information, because you mentioned the NWA and the Posse album.
Yes,
you know that's a bootleg, right? You know we had nothing to do with that album.
I did not know that. Please tell us about what happened with that.
Let me tell you the story. If you look back or go online, we dropped an EP called NWA.
Right.
It has the same cover, the same, on the back, right? When we decided to go and pursue a major record deal with Priority Records, Don McMillan over at Macola, which was our record distributor at the time and record presser, took the same cover and found some Feeler Fresh crew and some other people we didn't know and slapped them on their album and made an album called NWA and a Posse. So that record is non-official. We never put that out, but we ended up suing and getting the record back and just saying it's an album. We'll just get the money from it when it sells. So yeah, but we never did put that record out.
We just got some history that we didn't know that we needed to know, because we needed to know it.
Yeah, and if you're sitting on the NWA EP that just says NWA, that's worth a lot of money.
Now, in terms of that Prince with that particular album, was that something before when you all were looking at were trying to get the deal with Priority at the time? Was that along the lines of, did that get, because Macola, and shout out to our good friend, Doug Young, who has given us so much history.
Oh yeah, Doug Young.
Yes, good friend, Uncle Doug, great friend of ours. Love him dearly.
Shout out to him.
Was that a situation with that Prince where that was a regional release in California, or did that record end up making it the original version, the ones that you all did? Was that a regional thing, or was that did that end up being a nationwide release?
So here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. When we were pressing records, made the first joint, made a single, and then we did the EP. How we worked, because it was technically not a record label, and we just went to a distributor, made up a label, Ruthless Records, blah blah blah. So we had a label, but it wasn't no label. It was just us. We shared in the royalties equally. And how that happened was we press up 500 records and some cassettes. We weren't doing CDs at the time, records and cassettes, and we divvy them up. Everybody gets theirs. And you go east, you go west, you go north, you go south. You take the swap meets over here and the record stores over here, and whatever money you made was your money. So that's how we did it. And when our manager, Jerry Heller, got involved, the structure kind of changed, right? And, it was more of a business structure, but we realized later we was getting ripped off on that business structure too,
Yeah.
But that's kind of how that happened, and how the record kind of got across the country is two parts. One, like I said, my father was the editor of Cashbox, which was a music magazine, and Urban Network at the time. And honestly, I think I know Dre probably knows, but I don't think Cube or Yell or anybody else knew. He was putting us in all of those magazines and actually putting us on the promo CDs for free. So that's how we were kind of getting across the country without actually having, that distribution. And then part two, Don McMillan and Macola was bootlegging our record out the back door after hours and shipping it to Florida and other places. So we was getting phone calls, right? Hey, we want to book y'all for a show. We're like, how the hell y'all know about us in Florida and Texas? And we get down there, dude, they had like 500 records, and we like, we didn't send y'all no records. That's how we kind of found out about that too.
Oh man. I guess on one hand, while the business was janky on that end of it, it was a happy accident because it would lay the foundation in terms of you all getting known out there.
Yes, sir.
Even before then, and it's crazy, you know, Prince, when you talk about that, because like you said, with the original, and on Off the Cuff, we're schizophrenic. We go all over the place, but we end up bringing it home like a home run hit and sliding it. Because what you said about how if you have the original, I think about like with, and shout out to Uncle E40 and the whole clique up in the Bay Area, because with the Down and Dirty album that they originally did back in the day, because I do eBay heavy looking for stuff. And I would tell our listeners out there, if you can find the original Down and Dirty Click album, because the one that came out on Jive is way different than the one that was released independently. And that independent one that they did is worth a lot of money if you can find it, because that was released only in the Bay Area. Just like with another Compton son of y'all's who was doing y'all proud, carrying on tradition, Kendrick Lamar. He did an album back in this high school called Youngest Head Nigga in Charge. And if you can find that original tape, that's worth a lot of money. You know, I think he did that when he was like 16, I believe. And this is a testament to you all, Prince, because of what you all did in Compton. When you said about how you all would get the records, I was thinking 3 words: Compton swap meet.
There you go.
Before you met Dre, Eazy, Ren, you know, Yella, what was it like in terms of your personal journey before you would end up meeting them, in terms of how you were moving, and then just meeting people along the way before ultimately you all would end up creating the crew? Take us through that.
Yeah, so, you know, it's funny. We were all kind of on a similar path, right? So I was making records. Well, we were all DJing, let's put it that way. We were all DJing in LA, right? I was doing schools, little elementary schools, junior high schools, high schools. Dre and Yella had gotten into the wrecking crew with Lonzo, and they were kind of doing the same thing, right? You know, so we were all kind of just moving in these circles, skating rinks and stuff like that. I was down with Uncle Jam's Army, doing a lot of stuff with Egyptian Lover and Roger Clayton and all of them as well. So I kind of just moved around, even the Dream Team, you know, or another couple of crews called Ultimate Sounds. I was the young tech kid that knew how to hook up equipment and, you know, do all that stuff. So I was kind of down with everybody. And we started running in the same circle. So we would start getting booked. Like, it would be me, Dre, Egyptian Lover at Skateland USA in Compton, or World on Wheels.
Palladium?
Yeah, the Palladium, Casa. You know, on the Palladium, I would do the Palladium with another crew called Ultimate Sound. And there was another part to where, like what Uncle Jam's Army was doing, where you roll into a DJ concert or something like that, with like as many speakers as you could bring, right? And it was a battle of who had the biggest sound system. So I was down with Ultimate Sound, then you had Z-Car, LSD, the Wrecking Crew, Uncle Jam's Army, Optica, you know, all of these crews that just had like 500 speakers for no reason whatsoever. You know, which just to make loud music. And that was the scene, man, in the early 80s, you know, while and the identity of the West Coast, which I tell people, it was crazy, dangerous back then. It's almost like the backpack kids now. You got, I don't know if that might be a new name now, because remember they had like the backpack gangsters. Like, they look like skateboarders, but they was gangsters. They kill you in a minute. Back then, you know, you get killed by somebody dressed like Prince or Michael Jackson, because the gangbangers was dressing like that too. They was dressing like mods, or you know, like they was in the Devo and, you know, punk rock and new wave. So, but they was still from the hood. It was just the time of that time, man. So it was fun, man, to kind of just navigate through the early 80s. But how I met Dre and Yella and Eazy was, you know, just like I said, rolling through the Skatelands and the World on Wheels and the Casas and all the different spots. And me and Dre used to kick it tight, go to the beach and chase women and stuff like that. And one day he told me, he said, man, I was at the swap meet, the Rhodium swap meet, and he had bumped into Eazy, and Eazy was like, man, you know, heard his mixtapes and stuff, was like, man, you know, I like what you're doing. Maybe there's some synergy, maybe we can do something, because, you know, and he may not have used these words, but I use these words. You know, he was a neighborhood pharmaceutical technician at the time, right? So he didn't want to do that no more. He was trying to get out of it. Right. He was trying to get out of that.
Right.
Because his boy got killed. So, you know, Dre and him was like, well, let's figure something out. Brought me in, we sat down and talked. Next thing you know, we working on stuff. Q had gone away to college. Mom was sending him to Arizona to be an architect or something, right? And he came back in the summer and saw what we were doing, was like, man, let me get down. And he got down, and then, you know, Ren hopped on, and then Yella hopped on, and that was the group, you know, because if you look at the back of the first NWA, it's only me, Q, Eazy, and Dre on the back. You know what I'm saying? The front had us and a bunch of homies, but on the back it's just us four. So that was the first lick, man, and the first time I was really getting together, creating like that Voltron group.
Man, now around this time, Prince, because of course with K-Day Radio and, you know, other outlets, West Coast hip hop is really kind of, you know, still regional in that area. It hasn't really broken on the mainstream national level yet. Who else did you all run into along the way in terms of you all coming up? Like, of course, you know, you had, of course, Toddy T and all them Mixmaster Spade, you know, this guy that just became like this world famous actor and a kick-ass human being. I think you heard of him by the name of Ice-T. You know, he was coming up. You know, of course, MC Trouble, rest in peace. You know, what was that? Would you all compare the West Coast movement specifically in LA and Compton, kind of what was going on in New York at the time in terms of how everybody was, it was kind of becoming this coalescence that was built on the foundation of what DJ Kool Herc in the Bronx had started and what initially kind of become this groundswell of a cultural revolution and phenomenon. What did you notice in terms of not only what you and the crew were doing that would become NWA, but what everybody else was doing around the time?
Yeah, so it's crazy. You know, what people got to remember, and I tell people this in the joke, but it's actually true. We came from the before times. There was no internet at that time, right? So we didn't know what the hell was going on. Only time we knew what was going on the East Coast was when Uncle Jam's Army or the Wrecking Crew would bring Run DMC or, you know, somebody like that to LA to perform, right? And then we'd be like, oh, okay, that's fire. And that's how we kind of got into maybe trying to make records, because I was with Egypt, and Egypt had just, Uncle Jam's Army, they just got an 808 drum machine, right? So we was at his house, that's practice drum machine. And I was like, man, that's fire. He said, yeah, man, we about to go make a record. I'm like, what? Y'all going to make a record? And that's a big statement. Now it ain't a statement. Everybody making records now, right? You can make a record on your phone. But try to make a record in like 1983.
Man.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that in 1982, 83 when you a young, up-and-coming kid in the hood, you really ain't got money, and, you know, drummers, you gotta, like, get a drum machine. There's no, like, the computers were really, really new back then, and you know, studios were expensive, so it's like you had to figure it out, man. And the blessing that we were DJs and we rocked power parties and crowds, I couldn't afford an 808, so I went to Toys R Us and bought Mattel Sensonic drums. Little drum pads that was a toy, and I would play that in the club, man. It's like stop the music and play that, and people would keep dancing. So it was like, aha, all we need is a beat and some words. And on the West Coast, you know, I always tell people the difference between East Coast and West Coast was this. East Coast, man, is hard. I mean, we went there one winter, man. It's like rainy and cold, and, you know, it's like unemployment on the record. You know, it's like, that's the East Coast. West Coast was free party. because it's always sunny. You know, we was like freaks and girls and mini skirts. Like, we was partying out here. So the lyrics were drastically different because of that. Like, we didn't grow up with big ass rats and freezing cold temperature and, you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah, we were still in the hood, but it was sunny and palm trees and parties, you know, and barbecues. So we literally did that kind of music. So a lot of people trip on, man, why was it so up tempo? And hey, we was partying out here. They weren't really partying like that in New York. You know, it was more of a cultural movement, you know, in New York, where we were more of a party movement on the West Coast. You know, and like, really quick, we did a show Saturday, and I just got back today. Did a show, no, not Saturday, Thursday in Detroit. My girl group, JJ Fad and Michelle A. And Mike F's new club called One Mic. It's like a comedy club, but they do concerts. And it hit me when we got down there. We always wanted to figure out like what few songs we can throw into the set to hype the crowd up or whatever. And I kept telling JJ Fad, I was like, "Oh, we got to go up tempo. This Detroit." Like, she said, "What?" I said, "No, Detroit is like 130 BPM. You know what I mean? This is Cybertron. This is, you know."
Yeah,
all of that
the
kind
Midwest.
of stuff.
That's by Chicago, where the house, where the what you call the
house and electro.
Yeah.
So, man, they do every word to everything on JJ Fad's album. Like, they had to do Way Out and songs that we would never do anywhere else. But down there, they respected it. So that's what I say about, you know, like the movement, like you were saying. We really didn't know what was going on the East Coast. We just knew that we wanted to make music because they were making music, and we just kind of followed the lead, but in our own little way.
You know, getting this history, Prince, and this is one of the reasons we love doing this show and getting to highlight legends like yourself. When you were talking about how the gangbangers dress, I was laughing because I was thinking about that old Dave Chappelle skit with the Prince, you know, the True Hollywood Story. He was talking about that atrocity.
Yeah, hey, it's what it was.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about that, about just that scene, and it was just bugging out. But yeah, man, when you think about your starting out as a DJ, a lot of people would say today in hip hop that the DJ does not get the respect that they deserve, which we totally agree with, because the DJ is the sonic boom of it. That's the one that lays the foundation for it. You having that pedigree, having that foundation, that history of it, your entry into it, what do you have to say about the DJ and their impact and influence on the culture and how important the DJ is from all aspects?
Yeah, well, I would say the most important aspect, which is something that most people don't even think about, is the DJ knows what rocks the crowds, what makes the party go. So that's why DJs became producers, because on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whatever you want to call it, we knew when we dropped the needle what was going to work, what wasn't going to work. So when you're in a recording studio, it was the same way. Like, what's going to work and what's not going to work, we already knew, because this is what we're seeing in the club. And remember I mentioned we would have like 100 speakers, you know, serving Vegas in a club. We wanted to recreate that sound. And we knew if we played a record that didn't sound like Planet Rock or, you know, what was I listening to today? Kano. You know, and that shit doing hits. It's like, boom, you know, like, we wanted it to hit. So as a DJ, we understood that we had to make the transition from DJing to making records. It had to be the same. Right. There was no difference, where a lot of times I think, and this is no disrespect to an up-and-coming producer, musician producer that's never DJed, they're kind of working with what they want to hear, but maybe they haven't really understood what the crowd wants. Because I got a lot of buddies that are very, very, you know, great making music, but they don't really understand that secret sauce because they're not club rats. And, you know, I've been DJing for 42 years now, maybe 43. I mean, never stopped. You know what I mean? Like maybe during COVID. Not even during COVID, I was DJing on Twitch. You know what I'm saying? So I've never stopped DJing for 43 years. So it's one of those things where it keeps you young and it keeps your ears young too, because you understand what people want. And I think that's what's the most important thing about a DJ. Other than that, as far as respect, you know, I think DJs used to be forefront back in the day, right? And now it's about the artist and the DJ is secondary. But, you know, and I think that's just because of social media in the sense that fan bases, the fans go to, okay, who's on the song? Who's actually singing or rapping on the song? That's the person. If they don't understand, you got DJ Premier, you got, you know, all the amazing DJs. You got Jazzy Jeffs and the Dre's and all of these people who actually made these records that were kind of like the unsung heroes, unless, you know, somebody like DJ Mustard or Scott Storch, when they got the artist actually Mustard on the beat, or Scott Storch, you know, that's when they became famous because the artists were actually saying their name.
Now, in terms of that, Prince, because what you said is the perfect segue when you talked about the internet age in terms of where we're at right now.
Right.
How do you feel? Because back in the day, my brother King is 41, I'm 46. So we came up in the time where, in terms of DJing on the radio, which is the lament of our generation, because he's from North Carolina, originally from New York, and I'm born and raised in Hampton Roads, Virginia. So we came up in a time where the music was universal in terms of where DJs were, like you said, listening to what was good and to see if it had an organic reach with the crowd. I remember growing up listening to Daily Threat in 93 with Let the Dogs Loose, you know, when we would hear Cam's, you know, Peace Treaty, you know, as well as Gangstar, you know, Execution of a Chump, you know, all of that. And it's like back in the day, there was no influence from the record companies, which we know it is now because the labels are in cahoots with the companies that own the radio station.
Yeah.
From your estimation, Prince, when did it start to change where the music was being taken out of the DJ's hands and became more corporate?
Yeah, so I think that happened when we, as artists, went to majors. You know what I'm saying? Because now, and like I said, and again, I got a lot of friends that work at record companies that came up at record companies. Record companies, the way that they were, I remember you had to have a degree to work at a record company. You had to go to college to be, you know, to A&R or these things. They wanted people with degrees. So I remember, even though I was an artist, I was like, man, if I could be, you know, A&R at a major record company too, like, let me in. And they were like, oh, you know, you got to fill out a what? You got to fill out an employment contract? Oh, like, can I just come in here and just, like, listen to music? You know, it was different. So it was very corporate, you know. I got another little crazy sidebar for you, too. I did all of the A&R on Macola Records, which was the, you know, manufacturer distribution thing that we were on early on. And I broke a lot of records on Macola just by listening to them. You know, like, nobody even knows I actually broke Hammer. Like, MC Hammer's first record came through Macola.
Feel My Power, correct? That was, what, 87, I believe?
It was like Feel My Power and Ring 'em. Remember Ring 'em? That song called Ring 'em.
Got you.
Yeah, so I remember that coming in, and it was like it was a cassette and a VHS tape. I'm gonna be blatantly honest, man. And Hammer's the boy, I haven't talked to him in a while, but you know, he's talking cool. I heard the cassette, and I was like, yeah, it's all right? When I put in the VHS tape and saw them dancing to it, I was like, oh, this is fire right here, because you had to get the whole context. You know, Hammer was more a visual artist with the high energy music, right? So, you know, we got that they was like, are we going to make coffee mugs? Coffee mugs? Tell nobody I know drink coffee. Why you going to make some Arabian Prince coffee mugs? That cost me money because I was up on business. I knew that anything that they did came out of my money. Even though they pretended it was their money, that was something they was going to recoup. So I'm like, no, I better not see a coffee mug on. All it's going to be on is everybody's desk in here, or you might send it to a radio station or something. But nobody, they ain't going to sell me records. Let's do stuff that's going to sell me records. So yeah, it was that's why I think that the switch came, because then they started telling you what you could and could not do. They tried to tell NWA, you know, what we could not do over at Priority Records, because you know the biggest hit on Priority at the time was the California Raisins. They hadn't had any hip hop, so that was the first for them. You know, Ice-T, Warner Brothers was trying to tell him what he couldn't do. So when we got to the majors, that's what, you know, kind of screwed everything up.
Now, do you see?
go ahead, King.
Yeah, do you see it with it becoming business on that side? You being around the crew members, do you seeing the ego starting to show? Or you start seeing energy starting to change amongst the group?
You know what? Honestly, for us, I never really saw that. The only thing I did see is, you know, when I found out what Jerry Heller was doing, our manager, and ripping us off, and how I found that out is I had produced the song Supersonic, right, for the girls, JJ Fad. I produced that record, and I was, at the time, it cost me probably like $400 to make that, because Supersonic wasn't a single. The single was called Another Whole Bites the Dust.
That was a diss to whatchamacallit, right?
Yeah, Roxanne.
Yeah, Roxanne Shante, yeah.
Shante and all of them. And I was like, okay, you want to go diss some hardcore East Coast rapper chicks? You go right ahead. But I tell you what, I'm going to do a dance record on the other side just in case. So we did the B side, and that was Supersonic. And all the DJs got it and flipped it over and started banging Supersonic. So we had to repress that as a single. And I put it on Dream Team Records, because Ruby and all them was my homies. I used to do stuff with them. And I remember being at the drive-in theater one time. I was 16 years old, man. I just got my car, 16, 17. I'm at the drive-in theater with a girl. And in the intermission, they started playing the Dream Team's music video at the drive-in movie. I had never seen a rap, you know, video at the drive-in movie. I'm like, that's when you knew how big they were, right? So I'm like, okay, bam, I'm putting this on Dream Team Records because they got the hottest thing out right now. We're going to put Supersonic in Another Hole over here. And we did. It blew up. But unfortunately, you know, rest in peace, Rudy Pardee, we had some business discrepancies when that thing blew up, and I had to take the record back. So I took it back, put it on Ruthless Records, but we had just started our own label, you know. And the money from Supersonic was actually funding NWA production, because Supersonic is just blowing up, right? So I was trying to get paid, and Jerry always had some excuse why I couldn't get my money. So that's when I kind of realized that there was something going on. Got me an attorney, took care of my business, and I ended up leaving the group like right after we did Straight Outta Compton, you know. And I'm like, everybody's like, man, you stupid leaving, right? I said, well, I did some of the early tour on Straight Outta Compton, but when I realized I wasn't getting paid, and nobody was really getting paid, that little $500 we was getting, and the little, you know, Jeeps or little things that Jerry was providing for everybody, I wasn't about that, man. I want my money, you know. So I left and took care of my business. But that's what I think changed everything too, is because Jerry was really tied in with those major labels, you know. And when JJ Fad got the deal over at Atlantic Records at AFCO, that opened the door for NWA to get the major deal as well, you know what I mean? And I look back in hindsight, if I stayed independent with a record that big, oh my God, how much money we made.
And nigga, we talking about 80s money at the time. Now, when
that's what I'm saying.
And when you did Supersonic, that was all some studio time that you had all had left over, you know.
I was working on, I remember I was working on Professor X, because I'm also known as Professor X. I was doing a Professor X joint, and they was just in there hanging out, and I had about 4 or 5 hours of studio time left, and they was like, let's make a record. I'm like, all right, whatever, you know. And seriously, like, I had an 808, and and Yamaha DX7 keyboard in the studio. And that's what Supersonic is, an 808 and a Yamaha DX7 keyboard. That's all that was on that record.
Man, oh my God, Prince, this is oh God, the history we're getting. This is lovely. We still got some time to go. Now, in terms of all of this, Prince, when you're thinking about what's happening at the time, when you're talking about how JJ Fad and them were beginning to blow and such, and about how you all were really beginning to see it. When we talked to Lonzo a couple of months ago, we interviewed him. Lonzo, because there's been a lot of questions and opaqueness, if not outright uncertainty and mystery about the status of Ruthless. And everything you said lines up perfectly with what he said, because he has said Ruthless was a group endeavor with all of you. And then when Jerry got involved in it, that's when it kind of became Jerry and Eazy. Would you pretty much say that's how it ended up going?
Yeah, it's the whole Cadillac Records thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, divide and conquer, in a sense. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what happens is you get it to where, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take care of it. And the reason being is, it's always saying no respect, no disrespect. Eazy was street. Eazy knew nothing about music or business or anything like that at all. And his favorite word was like, talk to Jerry. Let Jerry handle it.
Right.
You know, because he had trust in Jerry because he saw a white dude that knew people. That's what he saw.
Right.
And then he was in the street so much, he didn't see all the stuff that we saw. And he always had money in his pocket, like, because he was still doing a little bit of the neighborhood pharmaceutical stuff too. So he always had money. So he never had to worry about it. Us, we didn't have money. So we was always like, hey man, can I get paid? Talk to Jerry. Talk to Jerry. Jerry just throw you a little something here and there's $300, $400, $500. I'm like, well, no, we just got paid 10, 20 G's for a concert. Where's that money? Oh, well, it's always a story, you know. So I had to, like, get my business taken care of, and that, for me, was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I still get paid to this day, you know, where, you know, unfortunately some other people don't. So, yeah.
Now, there's also a person who does not get the credit or the notoriety that he deserves, and he was just as much a part and integral. The late, great DJ Train, Mr. Clarence Lars.
Oh, yeah.
What did he mean to all of you in terms of his contributions and legacy?
Man, Train, for his age, you know, as young as Train was, I mean, just prolific DJ, man, an amazing person. You know, how he died was tragic, trying to save somebody from burning house.
Yeah, and they were already out the house, and he didn't know it, but he ran back in because he thought they were.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man. But, I mean, great kid, you know, was always down, took care of JJ Fad when they was on tour, man, and, you know, probably would have been another amazing up-and-coming producer as well, you know, if he was still around. But it's crazy how, you know, it's almost what Snake Puppy from the Dream Team said something. And I look back and I started thinking about it. I'm like, dang, that is right. We did a concert this past Sunday in LA, like an old school freestyle festival, and Dream Team came out and performed. You know, he's passed on, but he got a couple other members. Egypt's brother, Dave, and he performed with him and some other people. And he said, man, I gotta say rest in peace to Rudy Pardee. And he's like, man, you know, like, the Dream Team has lost a lot of people. And I started looking back, I'm like, God dang, like 4 or 5 people that was associated with the Dream Team have died. I'm like, uh-oh. But, yeah, it's crazy. I love Train. Love Train.
Man, such a, I remember him in MC Ren video, Same Old Shit. He was in that.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day. Rest in peace. Let's take it back a little bit, Prince. In terms of when the 80s, the mid-80s, and the West Coasters began to rise to prominence, when did you all know, as a collective in the hood, you know, in y'all area, that you all were onto something that would eventually become a groundbreaking, historical, not only contribution, but an influence that will span the globe. What was the watershed moment on the West Coast in terms of all of these? So, of course, Radio and Joe Cooley were around as well. I mean, when did you all know, like, you all were ready to make your entry and make a stamp?
When we turned on the news and Chipper Gore was on TV with a bunch of people in bulldozers and fire burning our records.
Steve Dolores Tucker, yeah.
And you know, the whole PMRC with the explicit lyrics and all. Like, wait a minute, we in the FBI letter. Like, I think people listening to us in Detroit and the police. And I'll tell you another little side. So we came back from, I forget where we was at, Tennessee or something. And we got to the airport, dude, because they would call ahead. Police would call from one city and say we're going to the next city. And we pull in the airport, dude. It looked like the Blues Brothers movie. Like, where the police come from? Who they looking for? And I remember they took, Ice-T was on the flight with us because we was all doing a show together. Somebody said that there was somebody on the plane with a gun. Now, if you remember on Ice-T's album covers, he used to wear this little bitty gun around his neck, like a chain, like a gold gun that was about the size, like a charm, right? So they took him away. Dre said some shit about it, and they took Dre away. And it was just like the police would just mess with us everywhere, dude. Like, we couldn't go nowhere without being harassed, you know, back then. But that's when we knew that we was changing the world of ruffles and feathers because, you know, that was happening.
When you think about the industry business and how it was back in the day and how it is today, because you always said, for instance, you were always business-minded and savvy and on top of what was going on. What was the typical record contract during that time? Because obviously you're still active and engaged in the industry today. What are the similarities from then and the differences then to now?
Yeah, so, I mean, the reason that I was, you know, really, really business-minded, because I was a solo artist. I was the only one in the group who had been a solo artist, who had put out his own record on his own, you know what I'm saying, before NWA. Dre and Yella was with Lonzo. Lonzo did all of that. Q, CIA, they was under Lonzo too back then. You know, Lonzo helped them. So I was the only one that had actually done it from nothing to putting out a record on my own and then producing a lot of stuff, you know, early on. So that helped me out visually to understand what royalties were, what writers and publishing and copyrights and all of those things was from an early age. And I had to you know, do that to get paid because, you know, being a young kid like we were, they would, you know, people would just give us money. Like, coming from Compton, if somebody gave you $500 for at least a month because you didn't have bills or anything. You lived at home with moms or this or that. You know what I'm saying? I ruffle feathers a lot too because I was pushing because I moved out when I was like 17, 18. I was out the house already, right? So I had my own apartment. I had my own car. I had bills. Like, I had to pay bills. So I was doing all this stuff to have money now. And then sometime when the money wasn't right, I had to get in on it, you know. And I remember I got to give a shout out to my boy Unknown DJ, because what we would do is at McCullough Records early on, we knew McCullough was ripping us off. We knew he was pressing records out the back door and always complaining about, well, you didn't sell this or I don't have it. And Unknown was crazy. So he would go in and threaten me and be like, you at least need to give me $1,500 a week. I don't care. Like, I know you selling more than you giving me, but at least give me $1,500 and 2 G's a week. And I'd go in there with him and get paid every week. You know, so the contract may have been wrong, but I was getting money every single week, you know. And that's how I understood, like, the music business is shit, but you got to just hustle and just do your thing just like, you know, everybody else is. So.
And it's something that when we look at deals now in terms of how they're structured, because we think about
how they were then. And now a lot of these labels, they want 360 where they want a piece of everything you do, merchandise and touring, in addition to, the actual record deal contract, which is really a loan. A lot of artists, we keep saying it's on the show, a record contract you get from a label is a loan. You got to pay it back. Well, back in the day when you all were doing it, if you had merchandise and T-shirts or whatever, and tour money especially, whatever you all got on that was yours. That was like understood.
Bingo.
And now we have a generation of young people coming into the game that they, when we look at the metrics of it, people like yourself who are seasoned veterans with the wisdom, who made the young mistakes to become wiser, older sages, we were kids growing up who idolized you all. And we didn't know nothing about it except y'all made some bomb ass hot shit, that we was jamming to. We thank you all for that. We're too young to understand, like you said, the nuances in terms of what goes on behind the scenes, what it takes to get these records made in terms of a contract. You go into the label. And we have a generation of young people today who just want to rap and make music, but they don't understand, like, there's a process. Not only to, number one, getting good at it, but two, making sure you don't get ripped off. Because how many acts are we seeing, Prince, that are just flaming out like a shooting star?
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think a lot of it has to do with they don't take care of their business. But we live in how can I call it? Visual success society. Right?
I like that.
VSS, visual success society, meaning that how you look, how you roll, how you ball, that's success. But you could be broke. So all the money you make, you're fueling your bling, you're fueling your ride, you're fueling that look.
Real sometimes.
That's my point. Yeah. So you're doing that to maintain that visual success, right? But in reality, your business success ain't where it should be. And I often say, if you shore up your business success, like I just cringe when people just, I just went and bought a $3 million Bugatti cash. I'm like, I just bought this house cash. Like, you be looking for that cash. Like, I just threw 100. I was at a club, dude, in Vegas. Man, I was at the strip club. Man, I seen like 400,000 in cash flying around the room. I almost got butt naked myself, start dancing around. I'm on the wrong side. I'm sitting over here. I saw that money going that way. I'm like, dude, you're going to be looking for that money years later. You're going to be looking for that 400 G's or whatever that is, So, that's the society we live in right now. And I think a lot of people don't understand that everything comes to an end, right? Because the next generation of kids or people coming up that listening to the music, they ain't checking for you. So no matter how big Drake is, and no matter how big Kendrick Lamar is, or LL Cool J told it perfectly the other day. He put out an album already. He's like, man, people ain't checking for me like that no more. I did this for me and my fan base, but I don't expect to be selling 5 million records. They're not checking for me like that.
And it's funny you say that, Prince, because LL initially started what would eventually become The Force, which is what the latest album is called. But about 3-4 years ago, he started on it, but he had stopped it because he said the vibe wasn't right. He just didn't feel like the stuff was actually moving in terms of what he wanted it to sound like. So wisely, if he knew it wasn't right, he didn't let his vanity get in the way of the vision. If it ain't right, you stop it, then you start it again. Because when you're looking at the pedigree, the legendariness that he comes from, being one of the pioneers who really brought it into the national spotlight, Uncle L has nothing left to prove. He did it because he wanted to, and he has the right to. When you talk about what you said is so poignant, Prince, because when we think about a lot of our famous artists, some of our faves of all time, because everybody will say hip hop is dead. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not dead.
No.
I'm like, when you got groups like Griselda, when you got R.J. Payne, when you got, when you got Nas, doing stuff, Kendrick putting on for Compton, especially in the West Coast, Honest Alone, Cocaine and Sugar Free just dropped Sugar Cane, one of the best albums of the year.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Cam and China from Inglewood with they sexy ass twin cells. It's so many. Mitchy Slick down in San Diego. Shout out to Lincoln, and all the crew. CJ, Meatface, Mob Balls, the whole, my whole crew out there, man. It's like everybody, SZA, she's doing her thing, putting on with Top. It's like the music is still there. Ty Dolla $ign, he's still doing it. Mustard, YG, it's still out there.
Yeah, it ain't going nowhere. I think it's moving. It's crazy. It's moving back.
Mm-hmm. It's moving back where it needs to get to. And I think we lost him for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Had a little bit of technical difficulty.
Yeah, we'll get him back.
We're going to get him back on.
Hang on.
Hello?
Yeah, hang on one second.
Okay, King is working on it diligently. We're about to get him back in the mix. We are all live and direct off the Cuff Radio this Friday night with OG Arabian Prince of NWA. We are having a lively, legendary, intelligent, informative discussion about the history of his time with one of the greatest groups ever. And of course, the state of hip hop and music today, from business, influence, culture, and how it is still moving today. Bear with us. We're about to.
Yeah, about to get him back on. Hang on one second. Can't stop, won't stop. We gonna keep doing what we do, man.
We dropped.
Yeah, we had to bring you back in, because sometimes it does that with the conference call.
I was in the middle of something too.
Yeah, we good.
And we be hating when the shit go out like that. Okay, so we're gonna help you jog your memory on it. So what you were saying, like, it's coming back in terms of shit is coming back to the essence. Go ahead, run with it.
Okay, so Mr. There, So I'm like, it's coming back, but it's coming back and going back to underground, right?
Right.
And what I was saying is, it's the trip that, now the 1%ers and the 2%ers in the hip hop game, the Drakes, the Kendricks, the Megan Thee Stallions, there's a few more out there that are just on the radio. They're now pop, right? Pop, right? But the underground is tricky because, and this is why I think I got dropped. It blows my mind. I'll go on YouTube. Back in the day, the underground was, you had to be a record head. You had to go get the vinyl, go get that mixtape. It's by word of mouth passing around, right? Now, the underground is YouTube and TikTok and and Instagram. And I go on YouTube, dude, and I'm like, who is this rapper? And why does he have 400 million views? And I ain't never heard of him. But he's large. He just ain't on the radio. And if you look at the popularity of somebody like a Tyler, the Creator, he ain't on the radio.
Man,
Tyler got 1 billion people listening to him. That's every word. Right?
And people don't understand. People don't understand how. Well, I'm right here. Hey, people don't understand, like, to reach out to different audiences, it goes beyond just the club and the party. Like, how Odd Future and guys like them and MF Doom, they built their audiences was just through Adult Swim. Adult Swim was like the adult cartoon. They come on Cartoon Network, and they got a cult following just based off that alone.
When you think about, and I know you saw, and I know, Prince, you saw the Kendrick Pop-Out concert. Now this is a story I heard when Tyler came out, because when Tyler came out, you would have thought it was that nigga concert the way fucking, because he said he grew up on 82nd, I believe, not far from the Forum.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the way the crowd reacted to him, you would think it was his show. So apparently the story was that he just happened to be there. And he was so caught up in the energy, he asked them, because his set was only like 10 minutes. And he asked them, could he do a set? And they were like, sure. So that's how he ended up doing it. But when you think about what he did with Odd Future, were they kind of out off the beaten path? Were they a little weird? Odd? Absolutely. Geniuses? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Tyler is one of the most, he's one of the underappreciated creative forces in the game, because listening to his early stuff and listening to him now, he streamlined it. He found his lane. And, the youngin' is doing his thing right now. When you see some of these artists on YouTube, and we're all kind of savvy in the business because we're all in it, how much of it does your suspicion come up with certain artists that the books are being cooked in terms of these artificial views and comments?
Oh, I know they are. But, like I said, the power, it's the power of the parent companies, because the Sony's own Vivo, right?
Okay, right. I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, Sony owns Vivo. So it's kind of like, they do whatever they want with that. Instagram and YouTube, Google, and all of these companies that own these companies, they're paid by the record companies for the. So it's always been that way. It was the way back in the day. Remember, it was like the payola back in the day with the radio stations. They get money, they get loud rotation, and the human nature is very, very simple. The more you listen to something, you're gonna like it. There's songs I hate it. About 5-6 weeks in, driving after you listen to it, I love it, singing it, everything else. So this is the truth. It's just what it is. That's the way that it rolls. So if you can get that kind of following behind you, then you're golden. And like I said, especially with, I was on Tyler the Creator before, I've been on Tyler the Creator, with Haji. You know what I'm saying?
Haji Beats.
Yeah. Haji Beats. And even with what's her face? Who's the hot new chick right now?
I thought you were talking about Sid from Odd Future. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm talking about oh my God. I'm brain dead. Yes, I mean you get 59. The new hot girl now that was kind of chubby. Now she hella skinny. She's the number one.
Oh, Spice.
No, the other one. The one that Moo. The one who did Moo.
Oh, Doja Cat.
Doja Cat, right? Same with Doja. I was on Doja with Moo and before that. And now she pop. They all go the road of, and ain't nothing wrong with it. Don't let me go pop again. NWA was kind of pop, gangster pop for a minute. But if you look at Doja and even Ice Spice and a lot of these people, they go that Black Eyed Peas road, because Black Eyed Peas was hella underground. Yeah. They went super pop, and now they're trying to go back underground. They're trying to get that, hip hop cred back. Right. So, it's what it is.
Shout out to Will I Am, Alpha and all now, man. Fergie, I remember watching them years ago.
Oh yeah.
When they first started, with joints and jams, and all that. But they were definitely unique, and I don't think anybody really knew how they were going to end up being what they ended up being up there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And can I say this too? I'd like to thank Will I Am as well for taking Fergalicious and using Supersonic. I really appreciate you, brother. Because those royalties were very, very nice. And every now and then they still come in. So shout out to Will I Am.
Man, good dude, man. I got to meet him some years ago. I actually have a picture with him on my eyes and Facebook. A really good guy. I went to the tennis, he's just a really good guy. when you think about the industry and what you went through, when you left, because Cube, it was easy for him to leave because Cube had never signed a contract with them. We all know that story.
Yep.
You when you ended up going your separate way, what did you find in your own solo endeavors and success with the records that you ended up with? Tell us about that.
So two things. One, that's what I was mentioning, like, I still get paid because in order for Ruthless Records at the time to keep Supersonic, they had to do a deal with me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how that was my protection in a sense. That's how I got paid and still get paid to this day off of NWA and other things. So that's a blessing. I've done so many records since 1984. You know, it's crazy how, you know, I have to really, when I go to schools, when I talk to other rappers, when I talk to like seasoned, and you'd be surprised, and I know I always go on these little side tangents, but I'm always trying to, like, you know, give some knowledge, man, so that we make money. You know, like, I want everybody to make money. There's enough money for everybody, right? So my thing has always been like, man, I'll talk to some seasoned rappers who've been making records for years. Hey, man, you know about Sound Exchange, NLS, all these things? What's that? Huh? You ain't get paid for that? Like, oh, let me show you this. And then, you know, I got a homegirl that's taking care of a lot of people and that knows how to, you know, get into all these different ways to get paid on royalties now. And it's crazy, dude, on how much money people lose by not understanding the business, because the business is always changing, it's always morphing. And, you know, I got one more shout out to give while we're talking about this business side of things and making money on records. Let's give a really big shout out to Rodney O. And
Cooley, yeah.
Oh, and the Cash Wall, Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying? Like, one song, dude. That's what I say. You only need one hit that gets used again and again and again. And that's your life, man. And you got to have your business taken care of, your publishing, your copyrights, you know, all of those things have to be taken care of, your writers, in order to get that money.
Yeah. And we hear so many horror stories, Prince, about how a lot of these artists don't take care of their business, and then they find out, you know, of course, we get off the cuff, we're never into scandalous or salacious or tabloid. We always try to tell the truth to the best of our journalistic knowledge and integrity. I mean, it's like what we found out with the Lobster and Puppet, with Bad Boys, and that whole situation about how, you know, basically Puppet owned their, it basically had their publishing. And that's why for a lot of years, the Locks were not going to do an album together. Not because they were beefing, because, you know, those boys are brothers, Styles, Sheik, and Jada. They're brothers for life. But their thing was, they were not going to pay Puff. Like, no, this dude is not going to get any more of our money in terms of us doing a group collaboration. And I think even when they did solo records, Puffy was still getting a piece of their publishing as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's the world we live in when we're dealing with the music business. You know, everybody's greedy, and I think, you know, I'll give another shout out. And like I said, there's a lot of, you know, honest people out there in the business. You know, I give a shout out to Top Dog and the way that he handled Top Dog Entertainment. You know, he takes care of his people. You know, oh yeah, and he's family. He's like third degree family, man. My cousin married TT Boy, or TT, who was Kendrick Lamar's bodyguard. They all grew up together. Okay. Yeah, so he's the big light skinned dude that don't never say nothing in the videos. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the one who knocked out Suge, I heard. Okay. The grapevine. Yeah, so he married my cousin, so he kind of like family, but from what I understand, that Top Dog take care of his people. And that's all it is about, man. If everybody is eating the same pie, you know what I'm saying? That's all it's about, man. The numbers ain't always going to add up because everybody getting screwed. You're going to talk to back in the day and talk to what happened with Parliament Funkadelic, and he said, oh, well, you know, they said that George Clinton was screwing us. George Clinton was getting screwed. You know, everybody was getting screwed. So it's kind of like if everybody's getting paid, if record companies, imagine if record companies just paid everybody. Imagine how much more money everybody would have. How many more hits record companies would have. You know, because everybody would be comfortable with just doing more stuff. But, you know, it's just, I don't know, man. I ain't never gonna stop.
The industry would be much more happier. The industry be much more happier. People will be doing less drugs.
Yeah.
There will be less clout chasing. Just run the money, run the tour money, run the merch money, run the royalties, do honest, good business, and we can go by our ways. And you can give me an advance for the next and the following. We can have a great relationship. Don't be shady.
There you go.
It's crazy because rest in peace to Coolio. I have an old Source magazine, and they were asking like artists about what they would want to see in the industry. And Coolio had said that I wish every artist could get $1 back off of every record they sold, free and non-recoupable. Because back in the day, you know, because on average, a lot of people don't know how the royalty system will work in terms of how some of these artists would get. To put it in context, Whitney and Mariah at their peak were getting about $1 to $2 a record. And, you know, they were selling millions at the time. So, you know, they were balling. You know, but that was like, you had to be like in a super place of popularity and stardom to be able to get that kind of financial compensation for it. Now, this is where, as you said, Prince, about giving knowledge, because off the cuff, we love our supporters, we love our listeners, and we always want to give them game too. One thing about it, the route in terms of independent artistry, is that when you go on an independent label, you're going to get more money, but the trick is, this is what I tell artists, this is what we all tell artists about the independent label part. Independent labels are great, like Lansky, Koch, you know, E1 that it would turn into. It's great if you already have the audience. But the trick is, you also have to be in charge of your promotions and everything else. You know?
Yeah.
But the money is great if you can have it, because the thing is that you're going to get like $7 off of that record in terms of the independent hustle, but you got to make sure. How important is it for artists to understand where they're at on an independent circuit moving before they try to make that step? Because everybody's in love with the idea of like what Dame Dash said, being a boss. But a lot of people don't always understand. They may have a boss mentality, but in an employee status. Take us through that.
Yeah, so, you know, I say now it's easier and harder, you know, to make that move, because when we started, it was harder because there was no social media, right? But there were 12 rappers. You know what I mean? Like, there was 12 rappers in the whole country. Like, you can count them. Like, LA was like 4. I mean, there was other ones, but they wasn't big. It was like some little dude. You know what I mean? Like, serious rappers in the country back then. I mean, honestly, if I'm not even joking, man, maybe 20. That you could, you know, from the 80s to the early 90s, like from 84 to 90, there may have been, like, you could name 20 that were hot. Right, from the East Coast to the West, because you got to really think the South and the Midwest didn't come up until like what, later on, like late 80s, 90s, mid 90s. I mean, you had, you know, Two Live Crew, that's Florida, but that's not really South. That, you know, it's South, but you know what I'm saying? They was there, but they wasn't really doing nothing yet. So it's crazy that it was harder but easier back then, and it's the same now. Now it's the opposite. You got 9 million rappers and 9 million artists, right? All trying to vie for the same space and the same number of people. And that's what makes it harder. But what makes it easier is you have social media. And like you said, if you have that drive to put yourself out there. Like, I've never been that dude. Like, I grew up, and it's my own fault. I thought I was Prince. Like, I was the mysterious purple one, you know what I mean? Before NWA, and I like that, being out of the limelight. And people say, man, how come you ain't never, because I don't care about the fame. I want the money so I can go do what I want to do and don't have nobody follow me around to the grocery store and follow me into the restaurant like they do with Dre and Ice-T and all of that. I don't really want that life, you know. So, but if you want that life, like I taught, there's a music school called Point Blank Music Academy, and I was one of their music business teachers for about a year or two, right? Mm-hmm. And what I would say to the students very simply was this: who in this building wants to be famous, right? And some people will raise their hand. Not everybody. Some people raise their hand, maybe half, maybe more than half, but everybody didn't raise their hand. But then I would say, who in this building wants to be successful? Everybody raises their hand. And I think people get things twisted between fame and success. You can have fame without success, but you can have success without fame. And I choose to have success without fame. It's cool to be known when I want to get in somewhere for free. That works. I'll bring out fame all day long when I'm trying to get in somewhere. Don't you know who I am? Yeah, or go, go meet somebody. It works when you want to have meetings or do certain things. I never really even trip on that either, but it comes in handy. It's cool, but success is what drives success. I mean, business. Success is business. They all go hand in hand. And if you don't have success, I don't care how famous you are.
Now to take it on the notoriety and everything. I don't know if I had to leave for a little bit, but I don't know if you guys touched on this yet. The Straight Outta Compton movie, and did you feel that you wish you was depicted at least or acknowledged at least, or it didn't really bother you to a point?
Well, like I said, that all happened because of the discrepancies I had with Eazy's wife. And, I ain't got no hard feelings on anybody. I just take care of business. I don't talk bad about nobody. I always make my jokes just to keep my money. You know what I'm saying? You wasn't there when I did it, so you can't, complain or not try to pay me later on because you wasn't there in front of the show. But now you got to write me checks. Don't get mad at me when I sue you when I don't get my check. And that's what happened. I wouldn't get paid, so I did a lawsuit and got it handled. But that hurt me in the making of the film because she ran the whole thing, right? But what would you rather? Like I said, I go back to that again. Would I rather have a depiction of me in the film and not a check? Now think about that one, right? Nah, I want the check because the depiction in the film is not going to make me money. Just the depiction, like I'm on the album covers, I'm on the records, so I'm on the copyrights, I get the royalties, so it's like that doesn't help me. It's just a status thing, and people who know. People who don't know, cool, they don't know. So that's how I look at it. I'm always looking for that next thing. All the stuff I do in technology and gaming and all the stuff over the years too. Everything I do new is satisfying. The old stuff is cool. It's legacy. I'm so proud of it, But I'm always looking forward.
And that's something to be said in terms of the humility and the understanding of it, because obviously you submitted in terms of your contributions, what it is. And we know a lot of people, off air that we talk to about the movie. And, a lot of people we talk to on a majority say it's about 75-80% accurate. Even for us, being youngins from what we knew a lot of that stuff was exaggerated in some of it. Like, we know goddamn Dre and Suge did not have no damn stare down, showdown. We knew that. We were like,
oh, yeah.
We were like, no, that did not happen.
Yeah. And another one I say, good and well, we didn't have assault rifles running through a hotel chasing somebody because, man, all the traveling we did, you couldn't have a sharpened pencil in your pocket as NWA.
Right.
Because the police was on us like 24/7. But it's a movie. It's a movie.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's what we call in show business, King and Prince, dramatic license. They're going to embellish it a little bit because they got to make the story more compelling. Now, one thing about it, Prince, and I have to ask you this. You and Al Jordan, great collaboration came about.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, like I told you, man, I do me. Like, ever since the beginning, for my first record called Strange Life, I make music. Music is music to me. Like, I'm not going to just do this. Now, I would only just do this over here if that's all I could do. If I found a formula and I could only do that, cool. I'm only going to do that. But I can do so many different types of music, right? And when the opportunity came to work with Al Jorgensen in ministry, Al, man, I was like, it's so funny when I first met Al. If you look at him, I'm like, okay, here's Charles Manson.
And all hair and the hat and all that.
Yeah, I went to his house, dude. He had like a coffin and some like animal heads on the walls, and you know what I mean? Like, what was that thing that comes on one of them channels, Fangoria or whatever? Fangoria. That whole thing. Cool. I mean, the nicest guy you would ever want to meet on planet Earth. And then I found out that he's Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look at him as like this white racist dude initially. People look at stuff like that and think that. But he was telling me a story. Here's another crazy story. He said they was at, I think, Lollapalooza or one of these festivals, right?
Right.
And Cube was there performing. And this is back when, I guess, a lot of people wasn't feeling Cube being on something like that.
Right.
Like a lot of some dudes was trying to like who ride on Cube, and his people was gonna fight him. And Al and his crew jumped in there to like back up Cube and go fight. So yeah, I love me some Al Jorgensen. The songs, man, I don't know if you heard the songs. The songs is fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, now also too, because especially you coming from Compton, which is part of the Los Angeles Metro, because you talk about music, there's also one band that I gotta give a shout out to. They don't sound the same like they used to, but I gotta give them a shout out because they're one of my favorite groups ever, with one of my favorite guitarists ever. Suicidal Tendencies with Rocky George on guitar. Man. From Venice, shout out to Rocky, Culver City. You all have a rich musical history and all throughout the state, man. I mean, if you could think about one particular project that you did, what would be the standout for you that you really could say that you enjoy doing?
Man, so, of course the hits, it's all the hits that we did, but one thing, but, if you talk to any artist, most of them gonna pull a song that's like so obscure, that's different, that's just what they personally like, right? So, for me, it was, and you could probably find some of that stuff out there. I did an album, and this is something like when I left NWA, I had to make a decision. When I left NWA, am I going to do that? I could have come out straight from NWA and just put out, Gangsta Part 3 or something, just some different style of the same thing, right? But I was like, that's not really what I'm about. I've always been a party dude. Like, I'm girls and party. So when I did She Got a Big Posse in that album, that was like my party kind of, album, right? And after that, I went dark because I'm always like alter egoing this and that. And I did this album called I did Where's My Bitches, but it was supposed to be called The Underworld. So I was signed to EMI at the time, and I dropped The Underworld, and they thought it was too dark for them. They was like, oh, we don't want to put this out. So I got it back, and I turned it into Where's My Bitches. And Where's My Bitches sold probably, it probably sold 300,000, right? Mm-hmm. But independently, I was making $10 a record on that.
Oh, $10 a record.
Like 10. I got the whole 10 because we were selling it for at the time $15.99 or $16.99. Right. The distributor was getting theirs. I was getting mine. I was getting 10, like nine and some change on it. And when I got the first check from the distributor. Man, I almost passed out. I remember I was living in Burbank at the time, and I was like, this got to be a mistake. Like, who just sends money like this to people? You know, because as an artist, you know, you so used to get ripped off. You ain't seen no check like that. Like, you know, I was like, that's a lot of zeros. Like, I remember going to the bank. They had like, I went to the bank to put that in. They were like, you got hold on for a second. You got to come in the back for this one. Like, you can't just. We got to sit down and talk. And they probably was calling the police and finding out, you know, because my real first name is Kim. So imagine having a name Kim. I got to talk about that too. Having a name Kim from Compton, going to the bank as a black dude trying to cash a check. Boy, unless they know you, they already didn't call the police. Like, oh yeah, we got some fraud up here. They coming to get him, and you know, me, Kim, freaking Q, O'Shea, Lorenzo, freaking Antoine, you know, all these crazy ass names in the group. You know, even Ice-T Tracy. You know, like we all like try to cash checks. It wasn't fun until they knew you. You know.
Now, you said Tracy, which also, of course, we know is DOC. When you look at what happened with him and his accident with his voice, because that dude, I mean, we look at it in the universe of what ifs. Like, what if Bo Jackson hadn't gotten hurt?
Yeah.
You know, what if Sam Bowie had managed to stay healthy when he was in Kentucky and not, you know, got into the pros, you know, fully healthy? Sam Bowie was nice in Kentucky. People still say he was buff. I'm like, no, he just didn't get time to get healthy. What if Len Bias had died from the cocaine? What do you think DOC would have been had he not, you know, had Mr. Curry not had that accident?
Man, DOC, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest MCs, just naturally great MC that could just rap any style, anything, right? And write like writer, because, you know, he wrote pretty much everything on everybody, right? Whether he gets it.
You got dropped. Hold on 1 sec. I'm gonna bring him back on.
Okay, we're bringing them back in.
Yeah, we going there about Doc, the DOC. Yeah, we have to do it this way, but it's all good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we back at it, man. That was my fault right there. Oh, shoot. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, that was my fault right there. I dropped it by mistake. Yeah, we back.
Yeah, go ahead. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we were talking about the DOC, and, you know, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest natural MCs. Could rap any style, you know, write for everybody, whether he gets credit for it or not. You know, just an amazing, you know, writer, artist. But that was just a sad thing that happened to him, and I think that the album was so hot and had so much traction. If he was able to follow it up, you know, a second, a third time, I mean, I think, honestly, he would have been in the same conversation with a Tupac and a Biggie. You know, it's just as lyrical as he actually was. You know, with Dre beat behind it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have never stopped. The only thing would have stopped that was the same thing that stopped everything else would have been Jerry Heller and our manager. So, but other than that, you know, and now with AI, he may be able to come back. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, but is it too late? You know, because like I said, nobody's checking for us old ass rappers anymore like that. That's why we have to diversify and move into, you know, other lanes that bring in that money. So.
Now, it's funny that you say that, Prince, because when we look at the ageism, hip hop seems to be the only genre it tries to. They don't even euthanize, because euthanize is considered humanely putting people down. They just kick niggas out. I mean, and we understand because we came up in that era, so we respect the legends like KRS and Rakim and LL, Queen Latifah, Ice-T. Shout out to him and Body Count, Al Patron, Ernie C, and the whole crew. You know, we appreciate the contributions because that's part of how it influenced us as children of the culture and growing up to be journalists. So we understand it. You are still vital. You are still necessary. You are still appreciated, and you are still essential and needed. You know, we say that with all of our hearts. I think it's up to the youth today, and I think that's where the problems come in, because not enough of the youth today understand the history of the pioneers. Where do you think the disconnect is, Prince, in terms of the old school and the new school and the education that is so essential to enrich the culture, because erasing it erodes it? Give us your take on it, please.
Oh, you broke right at the end. It broke up. So give me just the last part of that again.
What it's about, how essential it is for the education, because if you try to erase the history with the essence, it erodes it. What is your feelings on that?
Oh, yeah. 1,000. Like, education is the most, I think people get the music business is a job, right? Mm-hmm. The music business is a profession. It's like when we was young in school, because you guys said you're in the 40s, right? So you had out here in LA. Where you guys from again? Where are you from?
I'm from Hampton Roads. Oh, I'm from Hampton Roads, Virginia. And King was born in Harlem.
Right. So we had something out here called SCROC, Southern California Regional Occupation Center, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
At school, in elementary school, you had shop class or some kind of occupational class to learn how to do something, to have a craft, to have a career, right? But a lot of people get twisted about the music business, and they overlook that it's just, I'm rapping, I'm making music. It's a career. It's an occupation. It's knowledge, right? You need to know. You ain't going to build a car without understanding every part of how to build a car.
Absolutely.
Or glass blowing, or like me, I'm a self-proclaimed Willy Wonka, a futurist. Like, I have in my lab, my music gear, but also 3D print. I can laser. I can, vinyl cut. I do a lot of prototyping on things, right? So I've taught myself how to do all these things, build computers, because I wanted the knowledge of the tools that I'm using. I want to know how to use them. So same goes with music. How can you put a record out and not understand all the stuff that goes along with it, the knowledge? And if you don't know, shame on you, because you got the internet and now AI. They can answer any question that you want answered, right? So if you're not taking care of your business, if you're not getting that knowledge, if you're not talking to other, I don't know any artist that wouldn't tell you anything. You know what I'm saying? Artists want everybody to succeed. There's a few narcissists out there, but for the most part, everybody wants everybody to get over. So I think that's the most important thing, man. It's knowledge first and foremost. And we got to keep pushing that. And I think the vision for the future is seriously going back to how it was back in the day. Like, it's almost going to be going back to how it was in Jamaica with, people just dropping their vinyl, just pressing their vinyl. But now people are going to be just dropping their digital asset to their 100,000 fans, their 10 million fans. Because there's kids out there. I got, maybe 20,000 followers or something on Instagram, 12 to 20,000 followers, because I don't really promote myself like that anymore. But you got some kids that's got millions of followers. And if they took care of their business and dropped something, they'd be making millions of dollars instantaneously, So I think that's the most important thing, like you said, is the knowledge.
And that's knowledge is power. Who in your career have you not worked with that you want to work with?
Who in my career? I would say, man, I would love to work with Prince. I got to meet him back in the day to do that. But I would love to work with Kraftwerk. I'm like, all my idols, the stuff that influenced me, those are the ones I look back and think about. But who I like to work with? This is some crazy, and you got to really, really know music to know who some of these. FKA Twigs. You know Twigs?
Not offhand. School us.
You need to look up FKA Twigs. And the reason she calls herself FKA Twigs, she's formerly known as Twigs because she was calling herself Twigs, and they said she couldn't call herself Twigs because there was another artist named Twigs, so she put FKA in front. But she's a producer, a dancer, and just like her beats is just crazy. And she just dropped a new record, a new single I just saw on YouTube. That's what made me, think about her again. And I mean, dude, like she on some next level futuristic, psychopathic. Like her stuff is like crazy out there. You need to just listen to some of her stuff. She's a singer for the most part. She's almost got 1 million subscribers, but go back and listen to some of her older stuff. Look at some of the visuals, man. I'd love to work with her.
Now, the biggest thing, Prince, is everybody believes in the industry a lot of the outsiders of the industry believes that it's kind of like you all are in this big fraternity and that everybody knows each other and that you can just call each other at the drop of a hat. And we know that's not true. How does it really work in terms of when people come to you with a business proposition for music or otherwise, or how you may approach other people about a business proposition or music or otherwise?
Yeah, so I have people, reach out to me all the time about music, and when I say it, I'll listen to it, but, I could be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of records, but I kind of do it from a very open-minded approach. A lot of people are very into what they like and don't really listen to or deal with anything that they not really feeling, but I can listen to any kind of genre of music, and I can tell you if it's a hit or not, in my opinion. I think that's fire, or it needs a little work, and I've been wrong. There's some stuff out there that like I said, it also matters if there's an 800-pound gorilla behind it too. If there's an 800-pound gorilla behind it, it could be gorilla poop. It's still gonna sell. We're gonna say no to an 800-pound gorilla, but for the most part, man, I really, really look at the type of music that people bring to me and go, okay, I like to vibe with this. This is a girl that's been reached out to me. Matter of fact, I got to get her back today. She wants to work, Asian girl. She's kind of fire, but I got to see what she wants to do, because I look at now, I ask the question like, okay, what do you want? Do you want to make money? Or do you want to do this just for art? Okay, if you want to make money, then maybe you be a rapper ain't the way to go. Honestly, you need to do this lane over here. Like I often say, you want to make quick money. Honestly, all you need to do is make an EDM record. Honestly, that's the hottest thing out now is dance music, EDM worldwide. If you can make an EDM hit song and go on like an EDM festival tour, you set. Right? Coming up in a hip hop game, you got a lot of work to get to number one. To get, you got so many, just alien status rappers out there now, from women and matter of fact, the girls is sometimes hotter than the dudes now. So it's harder to get in on that side of things, man. So somebody got to look at some other genres or create a new genre. I think that's what's popping now is, like we were talking about Tyler. Tyler came with something like left field, and even the Migos, when the Migos were hot, they brought something a little different. You know what I mean? Because I used to always make a joke. I was like, man, they really dressing like three Amigos. They had the buckles and the belts, you know what I'm saying? The boots. And to see a rapper dressed like that, it was like different. And then next thing you know, everybody started just feeling themselves and dressing however, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so peace take all.
Oh yeah, that was another man, let me talk about that real quick.
Go ahead, please.
This shit, like, violence, man, like, we NWA, we came up through that shit. We've been, chased by the police, gangs, all kind of shot at, all kind of things, man. But, I always think about it when I'm rolling in the cities. I was just in Detroit yesterday, and Detroit, one of the murder capitals in the world, beside LA and Chicago and some of these other places. So you got to watch how you roll in certain cities. Right. But it's so crazy that I gotta watch myself around another black brother that's supposed to be my brother. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that we have to go through these things, and there's people out there that's stealing and jacking and robbing and killing, and it's been going on forever. So it ain't just now; it's been going on since the beginning of time. But I think that what I try to do, what I've been doing, like I said, with I build tech centers and schools and do things in these inner cities for these kids to give them an option of how to get out without just selling drugs or stealing and robbing and doing these things. Because I took some kids to Google years ago, and when we got to Google, I'm walking them around. I'm like, Lamborghini, Bugatti, Rolls Royce. I'm like, you see all those cars? Those are engineers. Those are people that work at Google. These ain't rappers. These ain't football players. These ain't baseball players. These are technologists. They got more money than everybody. Combined. Yes. They talking about, like, everybody thought Mark Zuckerberg was on his way out. Zuckerberg and Facebook. And they said he's about to be number one again in the world. That's crazy.
And it's crazy when you look at the parallels, Prince, when we talk about that, because we're going to bring it back to the violence for a minute, because we want to touch on, obviously, what was going on within the group. When you look at the levels of, a lot of times, as people, and especially black people, we got to look at the power of collaboration. The story, for those that saw the movie The Social Network, which was, pretty much based on how Facebook came, the short version is Mark Zuckerberg, I think, invited, like, all of his friends to come to his dorm room to discuss the plan that would eventually become Facebook. And I think only 4 or 5 of them showed up. And the 4 to 5 that showed up, they're all billionaires.
Yeah.
So the fact is that, and we tell anybody this because we're not God, we're not the universe. We can't see what comes. But sometimes, if nothing else, supporting your people within reason, where there is actually a real plan in place where you can see A to Z, sometimes it doesn't hurt to just go ahead and support your folk and just go along with it. Especially when there's no money that you got to put into it other than you just got to show support and work hard. Because you never know how it may turn around for you. But a lot of times people get caught up in the sense of, man, how can I get paid right away? I'm like, well, sometimes the payoff don't come right away, and sometimes there are situations that are worth more than money.
So you just got to sweep the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people come in, because I remember reading this in Russell Simmons' novel. I think it was called Do It For Self or something like that. And he had somebody, I think it was a young intern, to pay his dues by working for free, like meaning sweeping the street, because he wanted to get involved with the music business. A lot of guys wanted to go in and get paid instantly, but this guy, he ended up being Kevin Liles, one of the most successful guys in the business. He ended up sweeping for street. And now look.
Yeah. That's true.
Sometimes people get caught up in the greed, but they don't see the seed that grows from just being able to be involved in something. And I tell people, think about the long game in terms of you may hit a couple of bloopers as long as you don't get caught out, but you may hit a couple of bloopers, a couple of base knocks, but you keep going up the batting, you keep that average consistent, you're eventually going to get a home run, and you're going to hit a few of them. This is one of the best things about the fact that even though Blog Talk acting up, because we still got, so we're not stuck on a time constraint, so we got as much time as you want to share with us, Prince, because we want to get to the violence aspect, because we really, obviously Q and NWA had their issues, but we never, ever, ever got the impression that it was ever going to turn violent. We never got that from any party. There was everybody thought they showed their records, this, that, and the other, but we never saw the impression of that niggas is actually going to roll up on somebody's house and spray it, like raid. and you all are born and raised in a neighborhood where shit get real fast. We're looking at the state of the game today in terms of how these artists are interacting with each other, how so many, especially with our young people, are so quick to say fuck this nigga and fuck his mama and the dead homies and the dead ops too. And we see niggas get toe off. I mean, Prince, we grew up in that time, nigga, you say some shit like that, nigga, they coming to see you. And I think that's why I think even with some of the rap battles that happened, niggas kind of knew where to draw that line. You're a veteran, you're born and raised in Compton, you saw the streets up close. Give it to us.
Yeah, so as far as NWA goes, I think that the difference there is we were family. So families always have fights. They break up. And
right.
They yell across the street. They talk to their aunt and cousins about you and whatever. But they don't ever turn violent. When you got rappers in the cities who ain't really been family, that's when it's different. It becomes neighborhoods and beefs and things like that. So I think that's why that never happened. It was just, Ice Cube left. He said some things. Dre had said some things, and Ice Cube came back with no Vaseline and all of this. So that's what that was. But that was just all on the mic. I don't really think that would ever got to that next level, with NWA. But it's like I said, man, it's crazy. And I think, who was it? Uzi Badass or one of these guys had said, why am I fighting with these fools? We didn't need to do a record together.
Rest you know what I'm saying? Badass, man. Long Beach legend, a good friend of ours. Man.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like you are like this whole, I'm going to say this too. And people will say, no, they ain't ever going to have it. Watch. A year from now or less, Drake and Kendrick Lamar are going to do a record. You're laughing, but it may happen. Because that's like, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker getting together and doing a record.
And the thing is, a lot of people forget that Drake actually brought Kendrick on tour with him many years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like we've had our jokes about it, but we respect both of them as artists, and they're both legends. We still don't know exactly how this whole thing really, all we know is diss tracks started flying, but honestly, and we all from the hood, man, so we know it was just some nigga shit, some ego got away with it, and then they just
At first, I'm like this, though. I'm like, a part of me is thinking that the lines done gone crossed a little bit, but I've seen in this life, that bag make his change up quick.
Oh yeah.
Give me about 3 or 4 M's just to stand next to this nigga and do one song.
Yeah.
That change up quick.
Probably had to be 30 or 40 million, each, because they, 3-4 million, and like that's
Birdman and Drake might have to come to the table with that. That's gonna be an interesting talk. And J Prince, Dr. Dre, and Birdman come up with $1 billion tour or something like that. Because at the end of the day, money rules it all.
Yeah.
Around this time next year, it'll be a trip, guys. If Kendrick would bring Drake out to the Super Bowl, that'd be crazy as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's something that I think when we look at where it is today, a lot of young people are playing with something they don't understand, because we're looking at the street culture, what you call what you said earlier about the VSS, but it's also can be flipped in terms of the venomous, slime saying, because everybody wants to be known online, being able to talk shit about how they're gonna do something to somebody. It's like, what's that boy, YBC Duel from Philadelphia, who got took out a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, me and King were talking about this. This nigga going into the goddamn graveyard, digging up the dead op's grave. I'm like,
48 hours later, he got his melon. It's melon pop, man. Like, shh.
Nigga,
What
48
you hope
hours,
to
they
gain
had that
out of
nigga
that?
guard. They erased that nigga within 10 hours. I think within 10, 12 hours, they had that nigga erased. And it's crazy, Prince, because him and two other dudes did a diss song on a rival crew, like a month earlier. All three of them niggas are dead now.
Yeah. Yeah, people think this is a joke. It ain't no joke, you know?
No.
You know, it ain't no joke. It's just like when I was in Detroit, I told them, it was like, man, don't, you know, we got cars for y'all, we got security when you here, you know, chill, wherever you don't need to walk anywhere. I'm like, I'm not, but if somebody, you know, I always say this joke, somebody run up on me trying to like off me, I'm gonna sing every NWA song, I'm signing records and doing, like, I got ghetto passes around this motherfucker. I ain't trying to die for no bullshit. You know, you would have killed me, do something to my family, and then we could fight if something happened there. But just some random, you know, violent shit for no reason, nah, man, it ain't worth it, dude. Everybody, you know, ain't saying this word, but everybody need to get along, man, and understand that there is no end game to this, because it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you, it's going to go through your family line. And it's just, you know, if you're creative, man, let everybody be creative. Like, keep the beef going. That's where you make your money. You killing off your beefs. If you a business person, y'all should sit down. It's like, man, I don't like you, but we making money, arguing back and forth across the bridge. Let's do this for the next 5 years and go buy some houses next to each other and have some barbecues. You know, that's gangster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. And when you think about the gang element coming into it, because we all know about the connections, you know, Eazy, you know, and Ren, you know, Kelly Park, Q being aligned with 111. You know, it's, and when we think about what was going on at that time, there was never, and we say this with respect because with NWA, what it seemed to be more than anything, you could say it was like, they were over the top entertainment. It was hot ass music. It was fire, but some of the stuff you would say the shock value of it was really what we just really enjoyed, because it was something we never heard before at that level. But even then, you never heard, you know, even though it was predominantly critical, like said, fuck them slobs out on treetop, you know, we never heard any of that. And now it's like it's like a lot of these artists out here are claiming gangs and they're putting it out there. Where back in the day it was kind of understood you didn't really want that attention out there like that. Because if you were really authentic from your hood, everybody knew it anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would often say that, you know, when you roll in the hood, I still got family in Compton and, you know, different places like that. And the real OGs, the real gang members, the real, you know, drug dealers or kingpins, they don't want any kind of attention brought to themselves at all. You know, they always say the dude you want to watch is not the dude talking. He's the dude that's in the corner quiet. That's the guy you want to watch out for, right? So it's one of those things where, you know, especially in the hoods, man, business, it's all about business now for the most part. You know, these guys, they making money and they want to make money. They don't want to ruffle that feather to make money. No. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, I think it's changing, man. I'm hoping for the good because I'm starting to see, I saw, you know, you had the Gang and YG and a bunch of them walking in Compton.
Yeah, the Pyru Walk.
Yeah, the Pyru Walk, and they had some Crips with them as well, you know. So it's, you know, if we can keep that up and build up instead of tear down, I think, man, we good, you know.
For the unification of LA and Compton with Kendrick's Pop Out concert, how big was that for the community?
Woo, man, that I told somebody when that happened, I say, man, this is like somebody inventing fried chicken. When they first invented fried chicken, like, man, what is that? What's that smell? I don't know. It was a lightning strike and a bunch of them chickens got burned up. And it's like, what? It tastes that. Oh my God, that's good. This was like, I never thought I would see that with every hood just down for each other in LA, just at that. And like I said, I hope it keeps up. I hope it stays, like that. But like I said, we always got idiots around. But if we can show everybody how we gonna make money, I think that ultimately that's what it's all about, man. It's ego and money. If you can get people money and make them comfortable, when people be comfortable, they start forgetting about all that gangster stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
When you think about the legacy that you have laid, and for people to follow, when you look at producers like Day One, a good friend of ours, Soundwave, who works with TDE, and so many others who are up and coming, doing it out there, what does it mean to you to know that you left such an incredible and positive impact, laying the foundation for the next generation?
Man, I'm just blessed, dude. Like, when I'm 59 years old and, we're still relevant to a certain degree, still out there rocking crowds, still out there doing our thing, man, talking to the next generation, letting them know what we believe, how we came up, how we started doing the things that we do. So it's like pass it on. You know what I mean? It's like you got to pass it on. Like there's what I always call a formula to success, especially in the music industry. And some people rise to success so fast, but they don't have that formula. They just get there. But then they struggle later on trying to maintain that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that is where the ego comes in. You get one hit quick and you think you know everything, and then, it's a harder time for you. But you really got to respect the game. They always say respect the game. You got to respect the game. And you got to respect the business. It's all about business. You take care of that, everything else just kind of falls in place. And then you can choose how far you want to go with it, if your fan base lets you.
Yep. And that's important, especially when you see about how everybody, understands the importance of unity and understanding that we may not know everything, so we're stronger together than we are individually. When you look at the Dog Pound, what they did this year, Snoop Dazz and Corrupt coming back together to do All We Got Is Us album. See legends like that still together, which are broken off of the NWA tree. I mean, the history that you all gave, the influence, and the fact that it's still you at 59, you're able to sit back, not as a grumpy old bitter, individual, but a happy, content, benevolent, and most importantly, a gracious dispenser of wisdom. For us, this is huge. So we can only imagine what it means to people that you know directly in terms of what you have given them, because we know what you've given us.
Once I cut off from food, they put it in the refrigerator after it cools down, all right?
So we thank you. We thank you.
Fuck.
King, we still on? Okay, looks like I'm on a solo tip right now with everything, and that's all right. But yeah.
Hey, yo, Eric said he'll be right there.
Okay. All right, and we're at a brief intermission right now, ladies and gentlemen, on Off the Cuff Radio with OG Arabian Prince of the immortal and legendary NWA. Of course, King Eric is taking a little break right now. I am your co-host T Max, right now piloting the program, and we are live down A lot of great dialogue that we've been able to discuss, the history.
Sorry, hey guys, sorry about that.
You good? You good?
But yeah, we about to wrap it up because I got to make sure this thing locks in. But we definitely appreciate everybody that's going to join in and enjoy this recording of this interview. We apologize from the behalf of Blog Talk being Blog Talk, but nevertheless, we got this thing done. We appreciate all the support that we have coming and inflaming. So it's just a start, man. Big shout out to everybody that's tuned in, and we will be joining y'all next week.
Absolutely. God bless you all. Thank you. OG Arabian Prince, we appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're out.
All right.